Okay, so remember that they're changing my voice. So real briefly, okay, I'm being targeted by the government as part of a white supremacist, satanic sort of government, corporate government, rich person campaign, to make themselves feel better about the situation. They have some business concerns or something to some degree, but they're really minor and insignificant compared to, their psychological kind of religion, right? When we look at Babylon, right, baby line, you get that psyche and eros are the driving forces, right? Psyche, where we get the word psychologist, eros, where we get the word erotic desire. And that goes back to the secretaries and the porn and the strippers and the sex workers and the gold diggers and the sluts and the easy females and the free love and on and on. It's all sex, 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 right? The bathing suits, the beach, right? The scantily clad women, right? The cleavage and how that connects to the meat cleaver, and the butcher also wore heels, right? Prostitutes in Rome and butchers wore heels. And so these whores, helped them make a killing. Okay. So an example, I'm going to give you a quick example of one of the things I go through, and then I'm going to talk about some experiences in San Jose, which is the main topic of this series. So basically, really quickly, I was at the bank, okay, pulling out some money for my mother, okay, and I have this eye condition as a result of being targeted, right? And so there's fumes in the air. There's a guy there. He's wearing a black glove, and it has some kind of chemicals on it apparently, and I saw that coming, right? He takes off the glove. He's kind of trying to subtly warn me, hey, don't do it, but I don't want to go inside because I'm wearing two sweaters. One of them is ripped up, right? And the reason why that has to do with their targeting as well. They use a lot of chemicals which prevent me from wearing certain clothes, okay? Which means I go out in public, with clothes with holes in them at times, right? And I look like a very poor person, and I have my pride, so on and so forth, and I'm not going to kind of make a mockery of God by looking bad past a certain point. So I'm not going to walk in a bank with a torn up sweater on, wearing a mask to address the fumes and so on and so forth, okay, to make a long story short. So he takes hell a long time being fumed. The noise is bothering me, messing up my brain, so on and so forth. And that's part of it as well, part of the consequence of the fumes and the poisons and the technologies they use that they've admitted to me. Again, they don't only have many witnesses on record. I have 24 witnesses on record, but they've admitted this to me. They've told me flat out as government workers that, yes, that's what's going on. And they've given me all kinds of confusing reasons as to why that is. But it boils down to their belief in what they should do to make themselves feel better, no matter how you slice it. Okay. So how did we get to this point? Well, now I'm going to spend several videos telling you the stories that you want to hear. Now you really have a good feel for, my mentality. Okay, we're going to get into that some more, and why I'm right, why I'm smarter than everyone else. Like the Bible says, the fruit of the righteous, right, is wisdom. Wisdom is the fruit of the righteous. You can't be wise without being righteous. Why I'm smart enough to be righteous while no one else is, why everyone else is playing the game. They're taking on their silly white supremacist social norm scale, their propaganda scale, their kind of police scale, right? Their kind of corporate oppressor, trickle-down neo-colonial oppressor scale, which is laughable and everyone sees through. Everyone knows that the white knight in shining armor is just propaganda bullshit. It doesn't exist in real life. Okay. So when I was in preschool at Montessori school in the San Jose area, there was a bunch of white children. Okay, now keep in mind, again, I want to caution you of making the mistake of thinking that I'm claiming that all whites in the area are racist in the same way that whites in the Deep South are. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. There's all kinds of racists, right? The acknowledged ones, neo-Nazis, hateful prison gangs, Ku Klux Klan, right? Kind of punk rockers who don't like black people, some bikers. And there's certain common famous ones. But the ones that aren't so emphasized are the most harmful. They're the rich people, right? They're the middle class people. They're the suburban people. They're the people who kind of get together and they discuss things a certain way and they social engineer. They're like people who are we'll say, the Freemason for whatever reason. Okay. And they're really active in planning, and they're in the government. They're the teachers. There are a lot of police officers. There's a lot of these people, right? There's millions and millions, and there's tens of millions of them. Okay. And they're actively reinforcing racist policies and norms and trying to recruit everyone else to do the same thing. And that's why everyone and their mom is in on it these days. Okay. So I was in preschool, Montessori. And we used to, there's this kid named Jason, and he'd give kids the hard time. And I went there with both my brothers. So my older brother didn't like him, but they didn't really clash too much, and my little brother, for whatever reason, they tried to pick on him. So, I was at him, you know what I'm saying? I'm throwing him off swings. I'm throwing him off, the playground. I'm wrestling with him and so on and so forth. And for whatever reason, it's almost like they were taking it easy on me, but it was really that they were afraid to kind of really engage with me on a very aggressive level, because they knew I would turn it up on them, and they knew that we kind of run around and I'd wrestle I outperform 2 or 3 at a time. Okay. And then Jason was a lot better at wrestling than the vast majority of these people. Okay. So I was a little bit better than him. So I could take on him and someone else at the same time if I maneuvered correctly and in the right position. So I'm working the angles and so on and so forth in that regard. Okay. So to make a long story short, various things happen. We used to get spanked by the teacher there. She's a nice Indian lady who had started going to my plays at the private school I went after that. She'd actually show up to the plays even though she didn't work there, just because she thought that we were so cool and so on and so forth. Okay, and they're changing my voice, making it so I sound like, they do this a lot. They change my voice in reality with the fumes. It does something to the lungs, and then they change it with the editing, and by the time I upload it the first time, more often than not, they've already changed it, and later on they'll probably change it again, and that confuses the hell out of things, right? And that's part of the idea. Okay, so there was that, right? And this guy and his friends told my older brother that they were their parents are in the military, and that they'll kill him, right? Obviously, in a sense, that's neither here nor there, except for a huge part of this psychological operation is military. Right? It's military, it's intelligence agencies, it's social clubs, it's documented and acknowledged secret societies, it's gentlemen's groups, clubs, if you will, whatever things in that regard. Okay, it's corporate groups, it's political groups. These are the main players in it, and their common thread is Western Luciferianism, right? The idea that they're going to try to make the white man seem superior no matter what, and that if anyone tries to stop them, they'll all get together and take them on, right? And they try to do it subtly. They try to do it at every turn. If you pay attention, you should already know that I'm right just saying this much. Okay, so that takes us to Cardin, right? Let's just go ahead and skip ahead there. I used to wrestle kids in Cardin a lot, and those people throwing tambark at each other, they kind of convinced me to kind of join into it, because they say, how do you get even? Well, you throw tambark back at them. So, I was really being kind of pressed by society, and it caused me to kind of wage a childhood war in a certain way. I'm wrestling them all the time. My dad used to spank me really hard when I was in trouble, so sometimes I'd spank these kids. I'd wrestle them down. I'd spank them. I wouldn't pull down their pants or something, but I'd spank them, right? And I'd throw tambark at them, okay? And at this point, there's gays that work with the government that are trying to make me gay. Believe it or not. They've been trying to make me gay since I was a child. Now, some of the details are pretty disturbing, and I'm going to spare you those details. Just know that I never had gay sex in my life. I never, got butt naked and did that. I never did nothing like that, okay? But they went the distance to try to turn me out. And there's all this church and Boy Scout scandals going on and so on and so forth. Okay, so, all right. And of course, why would I lie about this? It just is the truth. And the government never really effectively checked the gay community in regards to harassing me my whole life. But the vast majority of it was kind of subtle and behind the scenes. It wasn't like there's gays walking around saying, no, because they know I'd beat that ass. You know what I'm saying? And so they never took that route. Okay, because, part of being gay historically, and obviously I'm not gay, they are, is being a sort of, no offense to anybody, but being less tough than other guys, right? That's part of why they went with the gender neutral angle. They went with the, arguing that a guy shouldn't have to be tough, that, they think that guys should be able to freaking play with dolls and so on and so forth. Okay, and this also led up to antagonizing people enough and playing their controlled opposition game enough to where Russia banned a lot of their groups and labeled them extremist groups. And again, I'm not pro-Russian. I'm not necessarily saying what they did was right or wrong, but definitely there's a bunch of gay people who dominate the gay movement and dominate every political movement, really. These people have inordinate influence who who coerce people and turn people out and so on and so forth. Well, we'll get to it in the next video.